Order our July Commissioners meeting. We'll ask Commissioner Belcher to give us our invocation, Commissioner Booth to lead us in our pledge.
Let's all bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come before Thee tonight humbly, asking Your guidance and Your direction as we conduct the county's business. We ask You to lead us, direct us, give us wisdom, and most of all, help us do the right thing when it comes to doing the work that's before us tonight. In Your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Understand? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turn on my computer.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the necessary corrections.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
What are the necessary corrections?
If there's any.
Oh, if there's any. That's why I was asking.
Anybody, you have some?
No, sir.
Okay.
Surprise.
All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Public comments. Before I do the public comments, I would like to Mr. Marcus Graham to come to the podium and introduce himself to the Board of Commissioners as well as Beaufort County. You can go ahead.
Yes. My name is Marcus Graham. I'm a current student at Beaufort County Community College. I'm interning with the county's manager office. And the internship is sponsored by the Royal Center that's located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And what their mission is to develop strategies that can improve the county quality of life and influence me to remain in my county. And hopefully I can be behind that board someday.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll do public comments. Mr. Richard Hamilton. If you would just state your name and address.
Yes, sir. My name is Richard Hamilton. This is my wife, Hannah. We appreciate the opportunity to come address you tonight. We're from Belhaven area. And I'm going to go ahead and hand out, because I know it's a real short time, and y'all have a busy agenda, so I'm going to hand out pictures that pretty much show what my issue is. About 20 years ago, we found a perfect tract of land down on the Mungo River off a little tributary called Jordan Creek. Some of you probably know it. Pretty good fishing place, but don't tell anybody that. We have enjoyed this whole time we've been here, property owners. We do have an issue that is becoming, it has existed the whole time. It's becoming worse in the last several years, particularly with our storms and things. And that's the issue of abandoned boats, abandoned vessels. There are 7 abandoned vessels in Jordan Creek, and that's a creek of only about 2 miles. It's not a big creek. It's fairly wide, but it's shallow. And I have pictures of every one of them there. My son and I took them. And these vessels are an eyesore. They're a nuisance. They're a polluting factor. These are inboard motors. When they sink, and they will sink, and they will blow away in these big storms. They have really serious pollution problems. Also, they're a hazard to navigation out there in the channel. Some of them are right in the channel. None of them are registered. If you look at you won't see any registration. One of them was registered in 2007. One of them in 2011. They're not being taken care of. They've all been broken into, and everything's taken off. So they're just sitting there, and they're a terrible nuisance and an eyesore. And I saw where Dare County and Brunswick County had passed had a local law passed in the General Assembly that gave the county the authority to regulate and prohibit the abandonment of vessels. And I figured, and that's a law now, and so those two counties are the only two that have that authority. I thought maybe we ought to think about adding Beaufort to it, and I contacted Senator Cook, and he said, well, it's a little bit too late in the session. They're rushing towards closure right now. But it's an issue that I think we could look at over the next year and perhaps go back. He's interested in it, and Paul Tyne was the one that got the bill passed for Dare County, and of course he represents y'all down here too. So anyway, I think a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think my 3 minutes is probably up. And I just wanted you to be thinking about it, and I'll be back in touch with you, and I hope maybe we can move towards some kind of resolution of this problem.
All right, thank you. Okay. Are there any other public comments before we move on? Okay. Mr. Manager.
Sir, on page 107, 108, you have an item where the county health department has received a grant that was applied for, and the board was advised of this earlier this fiscal year, or excuse me, last fiscal year. And it's a grant of $2,625 for the My Plant grant, and they've reported back to have authorization to accept the funds from the Board of Commissioners.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to accept the funds.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to comment on this. This comes through the health department, of which I'm a board member over there, but this, and there's another item on the agenda tonight, which are really a part of the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare. And whenever you see money being handed out to teach people how to eat and to teach them about diet outside of the schools, when I was in school, the schools taught about diet anyway. But when you see these specialty programs like this, the money, the root of this money, it says VIDET in here, but I think from something that I got into earlier on, this money really came from the federal government. What the federal government is doing is, and through the Affordable Care Act and those taxes that you're beginning to pay, is they're passing this money out to things like the Department of Health in North Carolina, to these various, for various social programs through departments of health. And you're really paying for this. And most of these programs, they may do a little bit of good, but they are really not worth the money that's being spent on them. I'm going to vote for this just because it's the right thing to do. But the public needs to know how they're being taken when you see these programs.
Okay. Anything further?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I'll keep it quick. I'm gonna cancel your vote. I'm voting against it because we spend way too much money mollycoddling people. There's no self-reliance among people. They have to be told how to eat, when to eat, not to eat too much, and it's getting. We don't have money for this. We're $17 billion, $1 trillion in debt. We don't have money for this. I'm sorry. I'm voting against it.
Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor raise your right hand. All opposed, 6-1.
You did the right thing.
I did the right thing.
Okay. Community College. I see Dr. Ansley is not here, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Mark Nelson, standing in for Dr. Tansey. She had scheduled a vacation with her family some time ago, and they're coming in from out of state, so apologize for her not being here, but I think her family plans will do well to help her family life out. So we appreciate you guys talking with us again tonight. I know y'all have the roof evaluations from Mr. Farkas that we sent you guys, and also the roof evaluation from REI from 2010. A couple of things that we want to discuss those tonight, and I brought Mr. Farkas with us to kind of go over the technical details of that plan. And also, when we finish, I've got one item I'd like to talk to you about, that line item where we had the roof in the line, but we also had other items in that line that we need help with, like air conditioning. We'll discuss that later. And with that, we'll get into the report with John and let him talk to you about that.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, Mr. Manager. I'm John Farkas of JKF Architecture. We have worked at college for 15 to 18 years now, and we did about 10 years ago, we did a comprehensive evaluation in which we did evaluations and also a plan for roof improvements and replacements, which is very similar to that 11 by 17 fold-out that's in this report today. And 10 years ago, it was littered with replacements, and we've replaced just about every roof on campus now since that time. And the good news is as far as where we're at with overall roofs, we're in great shape. I mean, it's really showing that there's only one major concern, and that's Building 9, which was built back in '95. It's had a number of repairs and patches done to it that really weren't done per the manufacturer's recommendations and specs. It was also a building, I designed the actual building itself, but the building roof was value engineered at the time in order to bring it back in budget, so it wasn't the premium system that we have been putting on all the buildings since then. So this really shows that as far as Building 9 is concerned, it's the only one that we had a concern about in terms of overall performance over the future. We've looked at it in two respects. One is that we can do a fairly extensive repair to it in order to redo the seams, undo some of the things that have been done to it just from a maintenance standpoint that weren't correct, and go ahead and re-strip all the seams, re-flash everything. There are a couple areas in which the roof membrane has actually delaminated from the facer sheet over above the office area, which would require us to go ahead and tear out a portion of that to put it back in again. And we had done an estimate of about $80,000 in order to do those repairs versus a total replacement, basically up to the current specs that we've been doing in all the recent buildings, a TPO white membrane system that we can actually in the future reuse all the elements. That particular roof that was done, again, because it was value engineered, it used an insulation that once we tear off the membrane, it won't be able to be reused again. But every building since that, we've actually built it out of components that we can actually go back, take the membrane off, and go ahead and reuse 95% of what is already up there. The insulation, the underlayment, possibly the overlayment. And so I think in that regard, Building 9 would then come in, technically speaking, on par and up to spec with all the other roofs on campus. The chart that I have there, and I'm not going to get into it on a building-by-building basis. There's a lot of information there. Overall, the roofs are in pretty good shape. Building 5 has some issues, mostly because it's so close to the woods and those kind of things. So we've got some repairs that we need to do there.
Can I ask you a question about Building 5? Building 5 was originally on the 2014-2015 plan. Does that not need to be done now?
Sir, that is correct. It was on that plan, but after he reviewed that, this time his initial impressions that we may be able to get by with repairs on that.
Okay, so all the other roofs that are on this long-term plan through 2023 can be repaired.
Yeah, on my chart, I've indicated right after the 2023 column, there's another column here that says next replacement, because all of these are outside of that 10-year window that I'm looking at. And I've projected those out as pretty far. I mean, most of them are getting 30-year lives out of these roofs. Building 5, I think, is in pretty good shape. It's got two areas that are of a concern. One is the sort of the pointed area in the southeast corner of the building, which is really just a big overhang, and it's got some serious delamination of the membrane. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to pull that back and redo that corner. The rest of it is really seam repairs, flashing repairs, some things that were done that really weren't up to spec in terms of the repairs that were done. So I think by doing investing a little bit in repair right there, you can buy, I think, till try to read 2028 with Building 5. I mean, I think it's out there where you can get a 30-year roof out of that one.
And the Building 9 roof would be warranted if replaced through?
It would be a 15 to 20-year warranty, and again, a 30-year life on it. I mean,
It'd be white reflective.
yes. It would be very similar to what we did
Similar to
on
what we have.
on number 12, the new Allied Health building. We did it on building 3. And again, we moved to some of what's called these white TPO membranes.
Yeah, they use less energy.
Yeah, and see, years ago you had a choice of black EPDM or white EPDM, but the white EPDM didn't perform. It broke down and it caused more problems. You got half the warranty out of it, which a warranty is worth the piece of paper it's written on for a good portion of it. But the bottom line is now the TPOs have evolved to the point where we're extremely comfortable
You're
using
comfortable
them.
with them.
Yeah.
The thing that concerned me most about the roof on Building 9 was the age. That was 17 years old. And even those particular types of EPDM roofs, I was used to seeing them go for about 25 years if maintained. How much did the repairs and the maintenance contribute to the roof being in the condition it's in?
Well, there's some fairly serious things showing you. There's a lot of blistering and bubbling going on in some of the flashings, which is an indication of moisture. It could also be an indication of some outgassing that's being done by the insulation. And a lot of that just means that you got to basically cut the flashings out and try to go back in again. And because of the system, when it was valued down, it's using a polyiso insulation with a facer sheet. So when I pull the membrane back, I'm pretty much going to destroy the facer sheet. And
You have to replace that.
and you have to replace that part of the board. And so it's a lot of, the cost goes up to repair it almost to a ridiculous cost per square foot. And your value is going to be, and as if you go in and replace it, then one is we get the energy savings out of a new roof. We get a roof system in there that in 30 years we can actually either overlay the membrane or we can replace the membrane but not have to replace the entire roof system. So the insulations that we're using are in fact reusable, recyclable. And so we won't have to do the tear-offs again on any of these roofs, actually. The full tear-offs.
And so to understand you correctly, this is the last roof to get it to the membrane that floats on top of insulation material?
It's fully adhered.
Well, it's fully adhered. It's glued down. There's sort of a throwaway layer just immediately underneath it, which gets screwed down to the insulation and everything. That throwaway layer is actually now better than it was when we've done some of these roofs. It's a dense glass layer of glass mat sheathing that we can actually reuse just by flipping it.
Can I ask you another question? You're talking about the dark lasted longer in the past. Why was that? It seemed like light would have lasted longer because it didn't absorb heat as much.
It's a material called carbon black that's in the black membrane, and it just wouldn't break down.
Oh, okay.
And the white membrane was, when they did white EPDM, they left a higher percentage of the carbon black out. So what happened was that membrane broke down quicker. And so it was apparent in the roofs that they were designing, just in terms of how much they were warrantying them, they wouldn't give you over a 10-year warranty, whereas everybody else, black membranes are 15, 20 years. So I think, and of course the roofs that were on before all of this, before I started, and they were done on the cheap basically, was a PVC-based roof, which you could get for $2 or $3 a square foot, and it overlaid the old built-up roof. But the problem was, if you didn't take the old wet insulation out, you put this membrane on top, and you basically you made a bad condition worse.
Yeah.
And so when we've done all these roofs, they've been complete tear-offs, removing the old system, getting the building back to a condition that it was meant to be in, where the insulation was doing its job like it's supposed to, and the membrane's doing its job, and there's not two different systems competing against each other.
What's the thickness of those membranes? What's the thickness of the
60.
It is a .060 mil thick white membrane, and the black EPDMs were that thickness as well. The difference is a lot of them, I would say about half of these roofs relied on a glued seam, the other half have relied on a tape seam. Now the newer roofs that we have up there are actually a welded seam. So we've have that evolved, but I've inspected all the seams on all the, even building number 5, which is what your traditional glued seam was, and they're all in really great shape. It really boils down to the flashings and some things that we can remediate the big picture.
A lot of the repairs done around the equipment, done in the corners, particularly around vent pipes and that kind of thing, they just weren't done properly at all.
Yeah. They were a material that's not native, doesn't.
They weren't made, and
it's not the same
pipes,
material.
I was used to seeing uncured material put around it, and then you put in the patch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, they weren't done properly, but I think they were done again just in reaction to a problem that maybe developed underneath. Somebody saw a leak or something, so somebody went upstairs and just patched it. And we can go ahead and make sure that we oversee all the repairs so that we know in the end of it, we get a qualified roofer up there to do the work.
Well, let me ask you a question about the repair, because you got estimate for full-time inspection, you put optional on there. Normally when you do that and you put that cost in there, you say you don't trust the roofer. That's basically the position you're taking.
Yes.
I'm just putting that point forward.
Well, we have. I'll tell you, the way we have worked with it on the college on a couple projects is we've had an estimate for full-time inspection. How long are we going to have to be out here every minute, every day to watch and make sure it gets done the right way? If the roofer comes out and does what he's supposed to do the first couple days, we back it off. We throttle it back. It may be just a visit a day. Then we throttle it back a little bit more. The roofers that we have had up there on all these jobs that we've recently done have all been highly qualified roofers. We haven't expended, we budgeted for it, but we haven't expended it all necessarily on that. It's just one of those things that if you don't get the right roofer up there, a lot can happen when you turn around and you're not looking. Yeah. I've even done full-time inspections and observation jobs where I've walked to the other side of the roof and come back and they have turned it upside down and have not done what they were supposed to do. So you're not talking about a highly technical, highly trained crew of people that typically are out there. It's a hard working condition for anybody to be at, and certainly to be over there and motivate them to do it right.
I noticed in your inspection that you noted pulling the water. How close after a rainstorm did you do the inspection?
I was there the Saturday after all the big rains, a week ago Saturday.
Okay, because it normally takes a roof about 48 hours to completely drain.
Yeah, and most of them were okay. Well, there were some problems. At the top of building number 1, the administration had 4 inches of water sitting on 3 clogged roof drains. That was bad. I was actually glad that I was there that particular day.
There was in a previous history of the roof water that went up above the window level on building 9 where it indicated to me the roof drains either didn't drain or they were clogged at some point in time.
Yeah.
What's the condition of the roof drains on that roof at this point?
Well, the day I was there on building number 9, they were actually okay. Building number 1, 3 out of the 4 drains were clogged up on the very top second floor roof, and I had to clean them out to release 4 or 5 inches of water that was sitting up there.
How bad was the water pooling on the roof? Where was it?
On 9, it wasn't bad at all.
It wasn't?
No. It would meet all the requirements of, ponding, as the manufacturers call it.
So the insulation's in pretty good shape.
The insulation would have been damaged if there were leaks.
I didn't notice sponginess on the roof.
Yeah. Well, see, the difference between polyiso insulation, if you walk on that, the day you put it up there and you know it's bone dry, you walk on it and you feel like you're actually walking on a wet roof. That's just the nature of that particular insulation. The roofs we've been typically designing over there have a 3-layer component, underlayment, insulation, and an overlayment. And you walk on it and it feels as solid as this carpet does.
Oh, yeah.
And so you know that if anything drops, it's going to repel. It's literally going to bounce off. If you have some kind of damage, you can almost feel it the instant you walk on it that there's something wrong here. You can feel the fasteners if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. The polyiso insulation, unfortunately, was a value engineered decision.
It's not as good.
It's just not as good a performance.
Okay, hold on a second.
You may have mentioned this, but I didn't catch it if you did. On building 9, we're going to spend $80,000 for repairs. Is that correct?
Well, the option is yours. The $80,000
Repairs is
repair.
$80,000.
Yeah.
If we do that, how long is that going to give us reliability?
Reliability, I would say 1 to 4, 5 years.
1 to 4.
I mean, the thing I noticed out there is that on that particular roof, you can kind of tell the breakdown of the membrane. What happens with a black EPDM over time is it starts to powder, and it starts to actually break down a little bit. And most of that breakdown can go over 20, 25 years. The longer it's up there, the harder it is to patch. That's why most manufacturers only go 10 to 15 years under warranty, because they know at a certain point it's going to start being almost impossible to patch. Your patches are going to be quick fixes, short-term fixes.
And we were looking at the same results on Building 5.
That roof is actually it did not demonstrate a whole lot of powdering and breaking down of the membrane, which kind of surprised me because it's kind of a big open, wide open roof, direct sunshine. Number 9, for whatever the reason, the membrane, I can't remember whether they were two different manufacturers. They were either Versico or Goodyear. Goodyear or Versico or Carlisle. I don't know whether that made a difference, but my concern on number 9 and doing the repairs is that we'd spend all that money doing patches and repairs and reseaming and a lot of that, and unless we had a really good assurance that those patches were going to hold because the bond on the membrane was good enough to take it, that we might be right back where we were in 3 to 4 years. And
your patch is going to stretch different than your roofing material that's on there at this point too. I mean, you're going to have to let it lay there before you put it on.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to do a thorough cleaning, a thorough dry out. I mean, it's going to be a pretty laborious process, and that's why, if I was sitting here and trying to give you the best answer, I think the best answer is to go ahead and replace it. Put the white EPDM system on, put the insulation pieces in it that I know are going to serve you long term, are going to be reusable. I could try to put some kind of numbers on what I think you're going to save energy-wise just by putting a white roof on versus a black roof. I could try to quantify that somehow. I don't think you'll have a real quick
No,
payback.
it's just generally 10 to 12%.
Yeah. So we can look at the numbers of energy use on building number 9 and how much that costs us if we can, and say,
You got a number in here that if we did the repair option, we estimate the option may allow the roof to perform for another 3 to 5 years before a full replacement may be required.
Yeah, and that's consistent with the question Mr. Brent asked.
The number of repairs around the equipment concerned me greatly.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like areas were being repaired and they weren't even sure there was a leak there.
Well, that's why, there's kind of no, I couldn't identify that material that was being used. Some of it looked like it painted on. Some of it looked like there was a little
improper
fabric.
material all over the place.
And it was all over the place. And it could have been just a solution if somebody said, well, I know there's leaks over here, so I'm just going to paint every curb that's out here and go ahead and do it. But they're already cracking and already delaminating and doing things that you don't want them to do. And they're in critical places too, like at low points and those kind of things where you really just don't want that stuff
It
hanging
looked to
around.
me like they brushed them and then they just plopped them.
Mm-hmm. My recommendation, again, if you can budget it and if you can stomach it, would be to do it the right way and go ahead and replace the roof. The numbers I put up per square foot are based on some fairly recent bids that we did for the same type of roofing systems. So I feel pretty confident in those numbers.
Did you look at the leaks from inside the building?
I've been inside that building. And again, ceiling tile is getting replaced and stuff. So the day I was there, I actually
There's some old leaks and there's some newer leaks.
Yeah, I didn't go in the building.
There's some
because it was
condensate
Saturday
from air conditioning too.
It was locked down that particular day, so I was up on the roof. I didn't get to go in, but I've been in there enough to kind of know generally where the roof leaks are.
Yeah, I'm done.
Any other? Commissioner Richardson, I know you have something.
No, I'm going to save mine for discussion.
Okay.
We've got some important policy things to talk about for discussion.
Anything further? All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, John. And the other item that I had real quickly was, when we've been talking about this roof, is that we had some other items in that line that we still need assistance with, air conditioning and the like. So I'd ask you to consider, depending on what you're doing with the roof, to consider reinstating those other items that are say $67,000 in there that we need to help replace air conditioning. And a few other items. You just look at the top lines. HVAC is, I think we've discussed before, we've got a lot of old units out there and we're band-aiding them the best we can. And the other major issue there is some electronic locks that we're trying to install to help us with the active shooter program that we installed or are working on getting up and running. So,
Mr. Chairman, just to be able to clarify this, I think Mr. Belcher brought up in one of the budget work sessions needing some clarification on the roof project and what the total cost was and breakdown. And I think he accurately depicted a situation where the 367, whereas everyone's been calling it the amount of the roof, there was actually more in that figure than was just the roof. And so what Mr. Nelson is doing is just demonstrating to you all, breaking that out and showing you the cuts that we presented in the recommended budget included more than just the roof project, and he's outlining those for you now.
So I just ask you, Mr. Chairman, just to consider those separately from the roof project, if you would.
Okay.
Sir, that's all I have for any questions.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, look, how much money did we budget for, did we give the community college in their budget this year?
Mark, you may know this off the top of your head, but I'm
300,000.
searching for it.
Current expense and capital.
A little over $2 million? Okay, now, here's the problem I have with this whole thing. You got a bunch of commissioners sitting here engineering roofs. The money that we have given, that $2 million that we give the community college every year, is the purpose of that is for them to pay for the maintenance of the buildings, to pay for the utilities, and for other items in there. And the commissioners, I feel like that we're getting rolled, if you will, because now all of a sudden we're wanting to pull out special items, and we're supposed to pay for those special items in addition to the money that we give the community college that they're supposed to use to manage their maintenance and repair and all this other stuff. So one of the things that I would like to see out of this is, again, although I know it was in the budget, but the budget's been passed, so now it's nailed down, is what are you actually going to use that money for, and how much of that money goes for things other than maintenance and repair out at the community college. We, as a board, in the years that I've been on here, we have not been sitting here engineering roofs necessarily. We got drawn into this about 2 or 3 years ago on a roof that cost a lot of money. But I think that what this board is doing, and we've got an air conditioning schedule now. We've never been involved in telling the community college where to spend their money on air conditioning. And we're setting a bad precedent here when we start taking things outside of the annual budget and then saying that we're going to become involved in roofing schedules and all these sorts of things. The college is supposed to accrue some of that money for these major projects that they have coming up, because one of the things that we never do is ask them what their fund balance is, especially their fund balance for maintenance and repair. So I really have a serious problem with this whole scenario that we're getting drawn into. We need to, as a board, we need to start trying to back ourselves out of this instead of getting into it deeper and deeper. Oh, we're going to help you. We're going to learn all about roofs and all this sort of thing. We need to tell the community college they need to manage their business. We give them the money. They've got a budget. To my knowledge, they've always done a good job of managing what we've given them. But we're getting dragged out now onto a path that the commissioners have not been involved in the past, and I don't think we should get involved in making a decision on every roof and every air conditioner that's replaced out there, because it's going to cost you a lot of money when you start assuming that kind of liability before it's over with.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Comments? is this on for us to make a decision tonight?
If it's at your pleasure, it would require appropriation from fund balance. These two items.
See, we're outside of the budget now. You're into your fund balance, that you're eating into it, and you're actually increasing this budget substantially. If you look at the schedule that they have given us here, the $80,000 buys you a roof for roughly 4 years, and that's $20,000 a year. If you take a look at beginning in the year 2015, their roof needs up for the next 10 years is only $20,000 a year. So, I think we need to, what I would suggest that they do is that they spend the $80,000 for the roof. And if they feel like they have been misdirected in coming to us so that we can start helping them micromanage their decisions, I would be willing to come up with some number that the commissioners would pay a part of. Say we would pay half of this $80,000. At that point, that roof becomes a part of the $20,000 a year budgets, and they should be able to handle that. And I think that gets them off of their nut, and it lets us get our hands clean to this, washed of this situation. So I would make a motion that we go into our fund balance for $40,000 of the 80 that's needed, and that we don't appropriate any other funds to the community college because they have their own budget for this stuff.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. How much do we appropriate for capital expenditures? I think it was in the $300,000 range.
It was about 110, I believe.
110?
110,000.
All right, that's way off on that one.
Does that sound right, Mark?
Yeah, that's, let's see, capital expenditures for 2012 was $140,296.
$140,296. So you guys have enough to pay for it, but you have other things you have to do.
So that's correct.
Commissioner Hood Richardson's got we must be involved at this level, past what we've already decided to put in. We could maybe do half and ask them to do half, and then better manage from here on out.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get dragged into this.
Mr. Chairman, I asked Randall a question. Was this $367,000 in your original budget?
In the original recommended budget, I recommended that we pay it out of the last fiscal year that just ended yesterday, rather than carrying it over into the new fiscal year. So I did not budget it into this current fiscal year's budget that started today. But I recommended that we pay it out of the last fiscal year prior to the end of the fiscal year. So you have to. So that's why now you'd have to appropriate funding out of the fund balance.
We originally
$367,000 that you had in last year's budget rolled over into fund balance that you were going to spend on this.
No.
Well, no, my basis for doing that was because we had growth in our fund balance during the last fiscal year, and I felt that was a suitable way to take care of those expenses, to pay it out of the current year and not carry it over and budget it, but to pay it. But the board decided not to do that and to wait and hear this presentation tonight and then make a decision about it, and then knowing that you'd have to appropriate it.
So I guess my question is, what became of the $367,000?
It was never budgeted. The money that I would have used, you still would have had to give us permission to pay it out of fund balance.
Okay. And then next year.
No, I'm not making any future promises.
Okay, well, my thoughts are this is, and some may feel that it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it. Given our current situation with the jail, which I think is a strain on us daily, I don't think that it would be wise for us to commit $367,000 because we don't know where we're going to end up with that jail, and the jail is something we absolutely, positively have to fix. And I'm not even talking about a new jail. We have to fix what's wrong in that jail now, and so we have to conserve all the funds that we can possibly conserve to make sure that we get that fixed and get those inmates back. So I I will go along with what Commissioner Richardson has said. Any further discussion?
Question. Do you have the funds to do the other 40,000?
Of course, the answer is always no, Al. You know better than to even ask. Ask your children if they have enough money.
All right,
The answer is no. Why are you asking a question like that?
Allow them to answer the
Give
question.
me a break.
Where's this money going to come from?
Well, the other places I've got to draw it from would be salaries or something like that. Because we run it on a tight budget, I can tell you. And I think I told you to start with, I would never ask you anything I didn't need. The 2 meals sounds like a lot, but the bulk of that goes to salaries and utilities. And that's really where a lot of it goes. We don't really have the money sitting there to do that.
Okay, any further discussion?
One more. How soon would this roof need to be done?
That's a pretty dynamic question. I mean, with the kind of rain we've been having lately, it's going to tend to deteriorate at a faster rate because it's just constantly working right now.
It's going to stop raining Wednesday.
I got a roof that needs fixing too. You want to fix mine?
Well, I gave a notice to proceed to a contractor to do a roof replacement. He was supposed to show up a week ago Monday to start doing it. Of course, he's had 10 days of consecutive rain since I've given him a notice to proceed. The bottom line is you don't know how long it's going to perform, and typically those old temporary seams.
Well, I was talking about in relation to students being in schools, what I was talking about, or whether that was a factor.
Well, I mean, if water gets in the building, it's just going to do more damage.
No, I mean in relation to scheduling.
Yeah, scheduling, I think our students come back for a full session in August. So we've got a window there, about 4 weeks in between the end of the summer session and the beginning of the fall semester.
Is the building leaking now?
Yes.
So you having problems now with it leaking?
Well, if we're going into the fund balance for our $40,000, our $40,000 is available today. Scheduling is not a problem.
Commissioner Breen.
I think what I have to agree with Chairman Langley, that I think what we're asking you to do now is to give us some time to get over the hump that we're on, and you do the best job you can with what we're going to give you and what you can come out of your budget with, and then sometime down the road we'll look at it again. But right now, as Mr. Chairman Langley said, we're just in a situation where our hands are tied.
And I understand that. And I didn't know we were delving down too far below what you guys want to see. I thought we were just trying to enlighten you on where our issues were and that kind of thing. And in the future, when we brief you guys, I won't get down into that nitty-gritty detail. But I felt like I needed to in order to justify the extra money that we were looking at in this year's budget.
Just one thing to say.
With you up front and try to just tell you I need money and not tell you why I need it.
Just to sum up, our money's tight, your money's tight, everybody's money's tight. But if we're going to do it, we need to go ahead and do it before any more damage occurs. Now, what I think this board is saying is, we're coming to your rescue now. You're going to have to kick in some yourself for future reference, whatever you can do to cut back so that you can get on the schedule of maintenance, which seems to be a really good idea, and it's laid out nicely over the next 20 years. And we will put this behind us once and for all. Next year, you're going to tighten up a little bit somewhere else and kick in some of that more than what you've done in the past. And that's to sum up.
I don't know if that's what we said, but
That's what some of us said.
all right, any further discussion?
Yeah, when he cuts the lights off so he can pay for the roof, we'll have the children out there bringing candles, I reckon, to be able to study.
Well, if it's for the children,
Cruel world.
if it's for the children, we'll have to do that.
You can buy flashlights a lot cheaper.
Anything? Any other comment? You can't just cut in. You cannot do that.
Let's go.
Anything further? All right, hearing nothing further, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Okay, pass. did you along with them when the commissioner Glenn.
Yeah, we're done.
Van Lewis.
Where is that right?
159.
159.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I have two resolutions for your consideration tonight. First one's for Beaufort County Water District 1 regarding our water system improvement project. This is both a capital project budget ordinance amendment and a resolution approving plans and specification and authorizing the advertisement for receipt of bids. The project budget ordinance simply adds $2,895 to the soil testing line item, and that is to have the soil testing bores for crossing the river in the plans and specs. So the soil testing will be, the bores will be within the plans and specs for the different contractors to all have equal access to those.
Or 29,000.
2,900. The total price, I think, is $53.95. There'll be two bores. This is the soil bores.
They're going to do them in the river?
No, they're going to do them on the two edges.
Okay. All right.
The two edges, not in the.
You're taking this from contingency.
Yes, I'm taking it from.
No, he's
Yes, from the
increasing
contingency.
budget, so
Yeah,
he's
took it.
increasing the budget. He's not taking
It's not changing the budget. It's just taking it
Stays the same.
right from the contingency into that one line item.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, in that one line item. And I've reviewed the plans with the water department, and they have approved those, and we plan to advertise on August 12th, I think, receive bids in September. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, the second resolution involves Beaufort County Water District 6. It has no project budget ordinance amendment. It's simply a resolution authorizing the receipt of bids. The same that I said for District 1 applies for District 6. And if it be appropriate now for you to ask any questions or consider the resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second. Oh, you second, Bob?
That's all right. Either one of them. I don't
Either
care.
one.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, while Mr. Lewis is sitting down, if I might bring up an issue, historically you all have tasked the Water Department and your staff for tracking down funding opportunities for generator replacement, not replacement, purchase, because we don't have them right now. And we've been notified of some funding that's available for different activities specific to water departments and water systems that could possibly provide funding for generators and replacement and upgraded meter systems that the county could benefit from. I don't have anything for you to hand out now, but what I'd like for you all to do, if you permit me, is I'd like to get permission for you all to task your staff and then have the chairman sign forms that would allow us to apply for funding. It doesn't obligate you all to anything. It just paves the way and lets us proceed with seeking out funding. Why it's time sensitive is because we have a September deadline to file those applications. We won't know until May whether we're funded or not and to what extent. And I'll preface that with some of that funding may be grant funding, some of that may be 100% loan funding. But I think we all recognize the fact that the generators are extremely important, and we're going to try to chase any funding we can. If there's other activities that strengthen that application, we may seek that as well. But what I'd ask you to do is, if you could, if you would like us to, take a vote tonight to pursue that funding, and then we'll bring back the details later prior to you obligating us to any additional risks for that funding.
Okay, good.
How many generators are you talking about?
I believe, Christina, is it up to 7?
Right, and that's a combination of permanent generators as well as portable generators. That's
Now-
what would be on the application. That's not necessarily what we would purchase initially, but
What basically I think the design is that we'll apply for generators that would handle our entire system and basically prioritize it with the funding we get, then would allow us to purchase.
Will we be locked in? I mean, it could come back 60-40, 50-50.
We're not locked into anything by your vote tonight. All you're doing tonight is cutting us loose to seek the funding options that are out there.
I understand where you're going with, but you just said something that got my attention. You bring me the details back later. So that got my attention.
One thing you are doing is authorizing us to throw a net and try to get any funding we can. What you're not doing is authorizing us to write a blank check or obligate the county to an unlimited amount of money, and that's what I want to clarify.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with applying for grant money. You know, we just got these water systems to where they're supposed to be. Jim did it, so pulling themselves out and getting them back on level ground. I don't have a problem with applying for grant funds. I do have a problem with applying for funds that might require us to borrow a lot of money to go with them, or them giving us a loan as being successful in the grant. You know, we got a new public service director, and right now she's working real hard, and she's got a lot of different things to do, and I don't want to, I think the generators are a great idea, but I just don't want to get off in some other programs that'll get us bogged down.
I think, Mr. Chairman, hopefully to gain your confidence, I think by you all permitting us to move forward with seeking out these funding opportunities, then you would expect us to bring back alternatives to what those fundings might be to actually approve us moving forward. So that's what I would say here is let us seek out those funding opportunities, and then prior to us obligating ourselves, we'll bring you the different alternatives for those funding sources. And if they're loan, we'll still present them to you, but you all then could make decisions whether we want to obligate ourselves to those recurring payments or obligations for the future.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to give staff the option to seek the funding and report back to the commissioners of the options which we have.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, 7-0. Okay, Bob is not here. Todd Taylor.
Good evening. I have a few things on the agenda that we're bringing forward this evening. The first item on the agenda we'll be going over this evening will be the request for adoption of a revised animal control ordinance. I believe all you guys have received a copy of that ordinance. Our current active ordinance was last approved on, I believe it was September 11th of 1995. There was a slight amendment done in 2005 in regards to hold time for stray animals, but there really has been no changes since 1995 other than that. A revised ordinance that you guys have in front of you this evening, I feel that it strengthens our animal control ordinance, and it creates a great foundation to build off of from that point. I do have one section I'd like to pass to you real quick that we had to make one change to. That's going to be section 13.
Just let him pass them down.
And I'm open to any questions or concerns regarding that ordinance at this time.
Mr. Chairman, the Animal Control Committee, composed of 3 commissioners, has met for an ongoing basis and met again recently to review and make recommendations and changes to this proposal before it came to the full board of commissioners. And I believe the 3 of them, Commissioner Richardson, Clem, and Belcher, could speak to the committee's work and recommendation to the full board.
I wasn't on that committee, so that's.
Oh, I apologize.
That's all right.
apologize.
Well, I was going to ask you something.
It's so well done, I thought I was.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
On your
Sorry.
part here, it says dangerous dog. Okay, I understand what that is, but what are you going to do with it once you classify it a dangerous dog? Are you going to make the owners pin it up, or are you going to dispose of it, or what?
The dangerous dog ordinance it stems from a general statute. There's a North Carolina state law that covers dangerous dogs.
Separate process for that.
I got it.
Yeah, correct.
I got you.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board on this?
Well, could I speak for just a second before we get into the pleasure of the board, just to lay some groundwork?
Okay.
Keep in mind, this thing is somewhat of a living document at the moment until it's finally enacted by the commissioners, and that's the purpose for the public hearing, but there may be other changes to be made. For instance, Todd, I think on page 12 of your ordinance, we took out in item C, it shall be unlawful for any person to file a false complaint with the Animal Control Department, period. I believe we've struck that out, haven't we?
Correct. That has been changed.
Again, I'd like to, since it's a living document, to say willfully and knowingly file. We need to add those words in there, in that particular part of it. The nuisance part of this thing is somewhat of interest, and we need to keep in mind and have words that get into within the ordinance that the county is not going to take on your fight with your neighbor just because you're mad at him, just because you don't like him. And that's why some of this wording in the first part is therefore unlawful if substantiated by animal control. Animal control are going to be the people that decide whether it's a nuisance or not. If you decide it's a nuisance under this law, then you need to get your lawyer out and you need to go to court and prove that it's a nuisance. But this is going to be entirely decided by animal control. There's one thing that someone mentioned to me today that I haven't had a chance to talk to my fellow members of the committee about, and if I surprise you, then I apologize. And that is, there's not really an appeal for and we've got a good system here which keeps people, when there are violations, out of court. And you can pay a fine if the animal control officer decides you've done certain things, or you can appeal it, I believe, to district court.
Correct.
Yeah, but we should probably put some thought into having another appeal in here of where's your first appeal on this. Your first appeal could be something like to the Dangerous Dog Board before going to court and criminalize this thing and letting it get out of hand. And I would suggest that while I'm going to vote for this to go forward tonight, that we keep that on our radar as being one of the things that we might want to do. It could help defuse a lot of situations, and we need to put a little bit of thought into that.
The question, the item that you had here about making false, like living out neighbors, and I just make these false claims religiously, like the problem before on a matter until you kill one another. So what do we do, or what are we going to put in there to punish the person? Well, not punish him, but for some repercussion for us to keep from having to send Todd out there every 3 hours.
Well, one of the things you can do is the appeal. What's been one suggestion that I've heard is the appeal. Let's say that he's getting a call every 2 or 3 days to come out and investigate something. He goes out there and looks and says, "Well, I'm not going to issue a citation. I'm not going to do anything because there's nothing wrong out here." What he could do, and this is a stretch. The lawyer's probably not going to like this. This is a stretch. You could say, well, he could go to the manager at this point and say, "Look, these guys are aggravating the hound out of me." The manager might suggest, as an example, well, why don't you, if you have cause that you think you could issue a citation and advise the person that they should appeal. And at that point, they would then go to what we currently call the Dangerous Dog Board, because I can't find another place to put this right now. They would go to the Dangerous Dog Board. There would be a hearing, and the officer would come in, and the parties, and they would present their claims. And if the board ruled against them, at that point you're getting into the person that's making the complaints becoming a nuisance, and at that point then they could be charged with filing false complaints or whatever. So there is a method in this that would protect the public and the individuals and all this sort of stuff.
Section 19, it has in here, shall be unlawful for any person to file a false complaint. The Animal Control Department out of revenge, feud, personal benefit, or for reasons involving any other private dispute. Basically, it could be for any reason, period.
And that's what he mentioned earlier.
That's what he's referring to. But once you get past that, what's the consequence? I think that's what we're looking at.
Well, that's what we were just referring. Yeah, what happens? Well, and I asked you today in that email. We should have something in here. You're right, Al. It's not in here. What is the consequence? What is the consequence if you knowingly willfully file a false complaint?
Section 20, the imposition of penalties for violations of this ordinance. Part A states that a violation of any provision of this ordinance shall be punishable by a civil penalty, fine, or, if you read further, as Class 1 misdemeanor.
But in other areas, you've got things like
Correct.
Section 18, you got a sentence saying what to punish for.
Correct.
And that's what needs to be added.
Yeah, itemize it just as others are.
Yeah.
I think overall the document's very good and very well done. I read the document pretty closely, and the only real thing I would see is under Section I, general exclusions, you got general misspelled there. The spell check probably didn't pick it up, but I would do a spell and grammar check on the document to make sure everything basically looks good and is correct.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask him about, what are the regulations on page 2, at-large dogs?
Get back there.
Is an at-large dog automatically picked up, or if it has on a collar and an ID, or what's the deal there?
An at-large animal, if it has no collar and identification or a fixed rabies tag, microchip, no way of identifying that animal, it falls under stray. Okay. So the animal is picked up, it's held for the appropriated times for an owner to reclaim that animal.
But if he does have on all the
correct
stuff,
yeah.
He's not considered an at-large.
Correct.
You're not putting any leash law in there at all.
Yeah, there's no leash law going in here at this time at all.
That's all.
Okay. Anything further? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I believe we need to set it for public hearing.
He in first.
Yeah.
Motion to set it for public hearing.
Okay, well, it says
Set the
adoption.
public hearing.
All right.
Which will be at your next meeting, August meeting.
What date is that? August the what?
August 5th.
5th, okay.
That'll be a big meeting. Talk about a dog and a cat, it always gets big.
There'll be 10 or 12 people there anyway.
All right, your next item.
The next item is the adoption of the SNP program, which is a spay-neuter program. This program, I believe you guys have that information in front of you also. Originally, it was set up to help low-income housing or individuals have their animals spayed or neutered to reduce the pet population that's coming into the shelters. It's funded through the eye care license plates. There are certain donations that fund that program also. And it basically allows low-income housing to get their animals spayed or neutered at no cost to them.
What is defined as low-income housing?
Me?
300% of the poverty rate.
Correct. And
let's see, you're on food stamps, and we're going to spay and neuter your dog. Who's paying to feed the dog?
And
what's 300% of a poverty rate for a family of 4? About $60,000 a year.
Yeah,
that's the least of our problems with food stamps.
I'll make a motion to accept this money.
All right, have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand.
See?
7-0. All right, your next one.
The next one is going to be the adoption of the animal shelter fee schedule or prices. Let me get back to that real quick.
It's on page 202, page 16 maybe of what you're looking at.
Okay, and I believe the handout that you guys should have is, I have listed our current pricing, which covers dog adoption, cat adoption, reclaim fees, etc. The changes we're hoping to make to that is, of course, going to be the reclaim fee of an animal, which currently is $15, and we're trying to take that up to $25. Boarding costs currently $5. We're trying to get that up to $8 per day. Then the last item to be changed, which actually documented, would be the incinerator use costs, which currently we're charging approximately 90 cents per pound to dispose of anything other than animals for outside agencies, and we'd like to take that up to $1.50 per pound.
We had those discussions during the budget work session that it needed to be adjusted.
What's the pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion.
Yeah, one thing I would like to see changed on that you might consider adding to this is the incinerator use fee, $1.50 a pound. I think, what do you do if somebody runs in there with 10 pounds of marijuana from somewhere and they want it burned real quick? I mean, that's not hardly worth starting that generator up.
Correct.
Okay, we need a minimum.
You're talking about a use fee.
I understand.
You must have ulterior motives there.
Yeah, some of these people are thinking a little bit different than mine. Let's say destroy. We didn't want it burned. We wanted it destroyed. Excuse me. We need a minimum fee, I think.
$100 a pound.
Good, and when we do dispose of something like that, I mean, we have had to do that in the past for certain agencies if they have just one or two large boxes. The time to run that incinerator is cut down to almost nothing, because the time it's going to run to dispose of that small amount is very minute.
But somebody has to go start it up. You got wear and tear.
Correct.
You just need a minimum fee. We're not going to start it up for less than $100. Whatever.
I was just getting ready to say, what does it cost to just fire it up to incinerate it?
I have a...
You got time, you got scheduling time.
Yeah, if you break it down with employee and maintenance costs and all that, I couldn't give you a figure right now. I do have a formula figuring for how much gas and...
I move we set a minimum fee of $100.
I got a question before you make it. I mean, you just not, I mean, you use the incinerator periodically. You just not going to just light.
Oh, yeah.
Light it up
Exactly.
with a bag of.
Exactly.
So that's, put that out there. You're just not going to do it just because I come out there with 10 pounds of marijuana. There's going to be something else to justify.
There you go.
And I call you when to come with it.
If you make it there with it.
What is the incinerator used for to dispose of animals?
Ma'am?
What is the incinerator used for to dispose of cats and dogs?
Correct.
Anything, a human leg, get one out there.
Would the makers of the motion entertain adding a minimum fee of $100?
Yes.
I'm okay with it.
All right.
I don't remember.
I did.
Stand.
And who seconded?
Need a second, didn't you?
Okay. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay. The last item.
Last item is, it goes along with the adoption of the county ordinance, which is going to be the animal control civil citation. You should have a copy of that also in front of you.
I don't think you need to promote that. That's an administrative matter, isn't it?
It is administrative, Mr. Manager. I would like to make a motion and a resolution to make sure that this gets done, because a lot of people that are enforcing laws have problems. They lose citations and all these sorts of things, and I make a motion that when this is printed, that it be printed in triplicate, a minimum of triplicate, and it be serially numbered, so that all copies can be accounted for.
I second that.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I was going to ask to it if he knows who's going to get each copy.
Pardon?
Who's going to get each? What would?
What's the matter?
You want to figure that out?
That would be an administrative item. That's why I said a minimum.
I know the person that did the violation will get one.
He'll
get one.
He'll get one, and there'll be one for a file. But if they want to print them in more copies, I mean, it doesn't bother me. That's why I put the word minimum in there, because
Okay, all right.
I wasn't sure.
So one can go to the county manager.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you guys for your time.
Bobby Parker.
$164.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Here for my tax collector's report. I think you have that it's on page 165, and it's item 13. I think we closed out the year with a collection rate of 95.52. We had a lot of discoveries and rollbacks that were merged into the system just about the day 2 or 3 days before we were closing out. Might have brought that down a little bit, but some of those hadn't been paid.
Is the number right opposite 2012, $28,604,829.15? Is that the levy?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the adjusted levy?
That's the beginning levy, yes.
Well, okay, what about the adjusted levy? What's the adjusted levy?
There's a $69,268.73 to adjusted to the levy.
All right.
And we have looks like $1,281,573.39 has not been collected yet.
Okay.
Next item, you should have the 50 personal property listing and the 50 real property listings.
Well, yeah, delinquent property, it would help if there could be some aging put on this. You know, when did that levy first attack?
We can do that, no problem.
Because I'm looking at some pretty big numbers here. Alabama Carbon, who are they? They owe us $84,000.
They're the people that came in and bought all the land up in the northeast. Justice came in and they purchased.
Well, he's got plenty of money.
He's got plenty of money, but I've called him. I think for the last previous 2 weeks, I've called someone to try to get an address. I finally got someone in South Carolina that was assured that she would get to the right place and get us a check. We have not got a check as of yet.
How many years back is he?
He's not reached the age yet where we can go foreclosure. When he does, we will put it foreclose, and
what's that
our deal would have a good time with this.
What's that age to get it? I mean, to go
foreclosure. After this year's taxes.
Under the law, it's the second day of the year.
Right, but
policy in Beaufort County is 2
second
years.
year, 2 years. Mm-hmm.
I mean, his taxes are that much, $80-something thousand.
And increasing every month.
He owns the world up there.
I think there's about 6,700 acres.
You got, if I may, you got.
What's he use that land for?
He's farming it.
He's got plenty of money.
You got Brown Development owes us $51,000. Capital Bank owes us $48,000. Potomac Timber owes us $32,000. Our Bitterari Incorporated owes us $39,000. OBI Linings owe us $46,000. I mean, this thing got Power Boats $27,000, and this thing goes right down to $15,000 before you really start getting in the little numbers. Moss Landing owes us $15,000. You got some local Beaufort County citizens here. Zane Buckman owes us about $15,000. XS Smith owes us about $15,000. I mean, there's some pretty big numbers in here, and that's why I want to see it aged, because as soon as we can go after them, we need to go after them and get our money.
We will on any of these. These would be set up under foreclosure because this is all real property you're talking about now, so we would they either have to pay this by the end of this tax year or we will foreclose on it.
Well, there's a lot more here as you go on down the line. There's plenty of people who owe us $4,000 and $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, do you know what the total owed balance is for these properties?
I don't think she put a total on these.
I didn't see it. That's what
No, she didn't. I can have her put one on there from now.
The ending
That's a lot of
balance.
money anyway.
The ending balance for real and personal property is $1,281,000.
That's right.
$575.
Yeah, that's right. It's in that other report. Well, you know, on personal property, you know, to move on through this, Fountain Power Boats owes us $42,000 in round numbers. Premier Auto Glass. Now, I don't know are those the guys over at Chalkawinity that went out of business?
I
That
think
thing's got to be 7 round. That's why aging gets to be a big deal on this, because you're never going to get your money out of them. You just keep it on here, and when it extinguishes in 10 years, that's the end of it.
That's all
So
you can do with
that
that.
would be a great deal of help to us if we had aging. PAS, they're right here, owes us $18,000. Cahoon, Carlton Cahoon, $14,000. Carolina Bridge Company, $14,000. Blunt Redmond. You know, on and on this thing goes. There's some people in here that you see every day that owe us a lot of tax money, and they need to get their taxes paid.
And some of these, I think we've got discoveries on them, too.
The glass company's been going for 12 years.
Yeah, it's been gone a long time.
It's been gone. I
12
thought that
years.
had been. We can take that off the books. 10 years is the lien law.
Right.
And that should be taken off the books, cleaned up the books.
We could remove anything after 10
Somebody
years.
else owns it. This so they rent it to begin with. This is personal property.
If you want to, we've been keeping some of it because when Mark Waddell, if he goes in and does a discovery and it's 10 years worth of taxes, he's going to collect 10 years worth of taxes. He'll pick some of that up. You know. You can take it off the books if you would like.
No, I'm figuring on how he's going to collect it, because after 10 years, he can't
He
collect
sends
it.
them a bill out and they pay it, or he's going to sell the property. He collects it.
After 10 years, he can't sell the property.
He collects it,
under the law.
in his situation, he collects it.
Well,
Once he's going back, the whole...
personal property taxes do attach to real property. If that's the way he's collecting it, that's legal.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody like Premier Auto Glass, they don't own anything.
No, they don't own anything, so he's not going to get anything. That could be taken off. Some of it.
We need to age these things so we can look at them and let the commissioners get the books
Okay.
cleaned up, because I think you guys are working with a lot of stuff over there that you don't need to be working
It
with.
would make our tax collection rate up to 97, 98%, say.
Well, some of it we can take off. Some of it I'm not willing to take off.
Bonnie Products was before Miller Harness, which was before Flanders.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that stuff, we're never going to get that. It's just...
Yeah. Bankrupt. Personal property. And real.
Okay, we got all of the foreclosure property that county owns right now. That's on a list. Should be about 13.
Mr. Chairman, when Bobby's finished, one of my items on here we can probably do, because he needs to be here when we do it.
Okay. What else
You got 13C is your one with the property that both county owns now, and,
Yeah.
okay. And I think that's about all I've got, except for the last, to levies, well, it says levies sale real or personal property of delinquent taxpayers.
Is that on your?
Yes, it was
Yeah,
moved, it was
okay.
moved.
That's your item two?
That's
Yes.
my item too. Yeah.
180.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What I want to do is, under General Statute 105-321, allows, does not require, but strongly suggests that the commissioners charge the tax collector with collecting taxes. We haven't done this since I've been a commissioner. He has the right to do that anyway. There's other parts of the law that let him do that. But I want to do the formal charging, because I'm trying to move us into a new realm here where we are going after these taxes so that we can get our money, because most of these people, as we can already see, have the money. I will read you the charge that which will take about 45 seconds that we are supposed to give to our tax assessor, and in the form of a motion. So I move that we give the following charge to our assessor, and that is the county of, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, the county of Beaufort to the tax collector of the county of Beaufort. You are hereby authorized, empowered, and commanded to collect the taxes set forth in the tax records filed in the office of the Beaufort County Tax Collector and in the tax receipts herewith delivered to you in the amounts and from the taxpayers likewise therein set forth. Such taxes are hereby declared to be a first lien upon all real property of the respective taxpayers in the county or in the county of Beaufort and all of the municipalities, and this order shall be a full and sufficient authority to direct, require, and enable you to levy on and sell any real or personal, keyword personal property of such taxpayers for and on account thereof in accordance with the law. Witnessed by hand and sealed, Chairman of the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners. That's a motion.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor raise your right hand. Opposed?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have a second motion that goes with that, that involves, according to the general statutes of the state of North Carolina, the commissioners can authorize the tax assessor to bill for.
Collector.
Collector, excuse me, thank you. The collector to bill for the items of less than $5. But we can also authorize him not to pursue the collection of those items because of the expense in mailing and all of the other things that go with it. So I move that we authorize our tax collector to send the billing, and if it is not paid, that we not pursue the payment items less than $5, according to this general statute.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second. 105-321.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor raise your right hand.
I think there's one more we'd like, because we're going to need a deputy along with us at any time we would go out and do personal property collections. These laws are going back to 120 years, and there's a couple of places it says that you have the right to go out and pick somebody's lot in their garage that is not attached to their building. I don't think in this day and time that would be very good for you to drive up and see me picking somebody's lot. So I think it says here on this 183.
Yeah.
183 on page 183. You want to look at that one?
Yeah, I see.
I think that we talked about this the other day too, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
This is since you're going to let a deputy go with and let him be the person responsible for collecting the taxes, even though we're
in that particular event, only in that particular event. I so move.
We will be with them, one of our people from the tax office.
Right.
How many lots you gonna pick, Mr.
I'm not going to pick any. I don't have a life I want to give to the county right now. It's getting shorter as it is.
I mean, that's what I was just wondering. How many were you gonna go out there?
I'm not none. I'll answer my.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor raise your right hand. Opposed? Thank
That's
you.
why it's so bad when you're dealing with 120-year-old laws.
Hey, Ms. Downs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll pass.
I went in front of the board, City Council on June the 10th. But good evening, Chairman Langley and the County Commissioners.
Speak up, please.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Elrita Downs, and I'm the owner of Hunters Point Sporting Clays out on Highway 17 North. We opened for business in 1991, and it's still going. And in addition to our regular business activities, over the years we have held special shooting events, such as the North Carolina Sporting Clays shoot for almost 10 years. We have a East Coast Championship, which we formed in 1995 and is still currently holding that state shoot. We held a zone shoot for the Southeast Regional. We've held for 16 years the Log a Load for Children, which we have raised over $480,000 for the Eastern Carolina Hospitals and Neonatal Intensive Care over in Greenville. We held a number of corporate events for the City of Washington, Purdue Chicken, just corporations that have Ducks Unlimited and many more over the 22 years. But these events, I feel, have contributed greatly to the economy of Beaufort County, because we can fill up every restaurant and every motel in town during one of our big events. The last event we had with the Log a Load, we had 710 people there. That's a lot of people to put in restaurants and motels in a weekend. And usually it's a 2 and 3 day event. So I've come to you to ask for support to help correct a potential problem that I'm having with 17, Highway 17 coming by. You know, 17 is being improved and is in the process of being a 4-lane up to the old Florida area. And this is a vast improvement to the current 17, but there's issues that arrive at the end of my driveway. And the problem and the issue that affects me is the safety of people getting off onto my driveway going 55 miles an hour in one lane, and if I have 15 cars, they got to slow down. And if one of them being a transfer truck, he's got to take the second 4-lane and try to turn in at what the state has got me left with right now. I came to Hood a couple weeks ago. We had Ed Eatman out there. He said he would make it bigger, right? But we don't know if it's commercial size. I'm asking you, as I asked the city council, which they give me their support, to ask for a commercial entrance and a right-hand turn lane that these traffic can get over, so 55 mile an hour can keep on getting it. So I talked to Archie. Archie wrote this letter, but he called me today, and he's going to send another letter about the safety issues, because right now the road is level here and it just drops. And my customers are complaining their trailer hitches that they're pulling their golf carts and their 4-wheelers, they're all dragging down the road. And so Archie said today that he would go with another letter and wants to call a special meeting with the county commissioners, the city council, DOT, and me to see if we can come up with a resolution on getting traffic off of 17 safely into my driveway. And I'm asking for your support tonight. Now, our business depends on this access off of Highway 17 for transfer trucks. Okay, Ed Eatman was out there with Hood Richards and I a couple weeks ago, and Ed said, okay, I'll get you some barrels to put down here so that transfer truck will know where to turn. That transfer truck took out 3 of those barrels as he tried to make the turn. So that's telling you there's not enough room to turn that transfer truck that's bringing me a transfer truck full of targets. And one night, right after they come and, per se, fix the road, I went to turn off into my road that night, and you lose sight of the road, and I went halfway down that 7-foot ditch and had to have my car pulled out. I've had several customers to say they don't know where to turn. There's nothing there. We do have now 2 barrels, but when DOT leaves, there's not going to be anything out there if it's not something wider than this.
So how wide, Arita, how wide is it now that they've got you for a turn-in?
Maybe 30 feet.
To me, that's regular entrance way.
Yeah, so you need like 50, 60 feet, something like that.
According to Alan Lewis, which Bobby Robertson asked him, he was in the city council meeting. He got up. Jim, do you have a copy of that? Did you bring it with you?
Ma'am, I sure don't. I'm sorry.
I don't have it either. Bobby got up, Alan Lewis got up, and Bobby asked him what it would take. And he told him about 80 feet to make a 30-degree radius out, so that if somebody's sitting here wanting to go north, somebody coming into the gun range, transfer truck, trailer and a car with a 4-wheeler on it, can make that turn. Now, I paved that road in 2000. After it washed away 4 times, I put that road back. And I can't do it anymore. I mean, it's not feasible to keep putting this road back. I've been to Jim, and I've talked with him, Jim Chrisman, concerning possible solutions to the road. And he is going to try to seek out some funding to help us get that road fixed, if you commissioners will agree. He says he thinks there's something out there that he can find for us if you support me on this. But
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt you, Miss.
Go
Miss, I caution Miss Downs about being. I was overly optimistic about finding funding. One of the issues, the stumbling blocks with funding for that is it is in a private section. I think she's looking to try to seek some remedy in a good portion of the area of the road that is controlled by the DOT, and I think she's making some headway there, and I feel confident that through some meetings with them and so forth that she may have some remedies there. I do feel like we're striking out on some funding options for her for the private road. It does lead to a business, so there's possibly some opportunities there for her because of the traffic she has for commercial use, but just wanted to preface that with that. But I told Ms. Downs that we would continue to work with her on that issue.
Okay.
you have any more questions?
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm moved that, I'm familiar with this. I've been familiar with it for many, many, many years. Right now, she's got a construction situation out there that's under construction. But I move that we do a resolution of support for Ms. Downs in order to get her a commercial entrance into Hunters Point. What's the name of it? Hunters Point
Shooting Clays.
Shooting Clays.
Hunters Point Sporting Clays.
Sporting Clays.
Sorry.
Yeah, Sporting Clays.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Okay.
7-0.
And this resolution needs to go to everybody that we can think of, the local NCDOT, the Greenville Division, the construction engineer. You can give him his name.
Well, I talked with William Westcott with Corps of Engineers, because, you know, anytime you do anything considered into wetlands, well, if my husband had not gone to the conservation people in 1997 before he passed away in order to put this 72-inch pipe down, any man in this office can walk through that pipe standing up. And I put a pipe in there. Before, we was down in the bottom of this gully, 14 feet, trying to go into my property. We put in this 72-inch pipe in, and it won't carry the flow of the water when we have just a small rain. On February the 26th of this year, we had about 5 inches of rain. And you could put a speedboat in that side and drive it all the way to that other house.
Wow.
And it comes over that, and when Floyd came in 99, it washed that pipe away.
Wow.
And I had to put it back.
72 inches. That's a heavy pipe.
It took all the dirt away from it. I had over 55 loads of gravel put on that. And then in 2000, my son says, "Mom, let's put pavement on it and see if it'll hold." Well, in Isabel, which was 2 years ago, Irene was last year, Isabel come over that road and underpinned the pavement. So I have less pavement because it underpinned and washed it all out. Well, see, all that needs, I have a 30-foot right-of-way. We need to put dirt back on both sides, sloped, to where I have 30 feet that people can go in and out.
Okay, Ms. Downs, we've done what we can do. We're going to take our break now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're back in session. We asked Mr. Hughes to take the podium.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, thank you. I have a couple of items on the agenda tonight. The first one being a contract proposal, and I would ask or request approval of this contract. This is a contract with the Wooten Company to start the process of certifying the Chocowinity Industrial Park that we have on 17. You have the proposal in front of you. A couple of other things that we'll need to do in addition to this right here, just to get us started, is to revise our base map, because about 20 acres of the land that originally was proposed for that industrial park has been taken out by the rest area on the east side of 17. There may be another little change here and there, but there are just some little bit of work that needs to be done there. We've got some support from the North Carolina Northeast to help pay for this. So we've got a contract proposal here of $950, of which 50% would be supported by the North Carolina Northeast. So really very appreciative of Hood and Van Rogerson pulling that together for us.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
I got a question for you. I've had some questions. People ask what would it take to get the Washington Industrial Park certified? Would it be feasible to get it done also?
Answer to that would be yes. And basically all we're really trying to do with that certification process is be able to hand somebody that might be interested in building something there or using something there a CD or a document that says, hey, here it is, go start digging. Okay, that's really what you want to do with this. This is you're not building buildings, you're not doing anything like that. You're really just preparing the site and taking all the issues out of the way all the questions out of the way that they might have in order to get started. So my answer to you on that is yes. There are some other parcels of land in the county that might be useful to do that may not be owned by the county, but certainly the industrial park mostly is owned by the county, and that would be worthwhile looking at. I would like to add some more land to that and really make that a larger park at some point in time if that's possible. So, and that would really be worthwhile to do that. Land's not all that, soil's not all that great out there.
Okay.
The next thing that you would get from me regarding the certification would be just for you to sign off on a letter of support for the intent to certify this industrial park, okay? So,
You need a motion for that?
well, if you want to do that, and then I can just take it to the chairman to have signed.
Okay. Have a motion there, second.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor. Okay.
Thank you. We'll move it along a little quicker. Next item on the agenda has to do with an application that is in the works for some property east of Bath, off 92 Highway. We've got an application that is pending with the North Carolina Rural Center to help renovate those buildings that are out there just east of Bath. We've got a gentleman that's interested in buying those buildings, and he's agreed to try to create some jobs there with his business and maybe some others out there. So we've got an application pending worth $60,000. If he creates the jobs, we'd have more paperwork following this if the grant is approved by the North Carolina Rural Center. That meeting is not until August 28th, so we wouldn't know until then. The resolution that you have in front of you talks about a 5% match by the county, and we will get that 5% from the property owner at that time, so the county's not out 5%. So in the end, instead of a 50% grant, the gentleman will be getting a 45% grant. Okay? So it basically is a pass-through.
How many jobs?
For this, I think he's talking about 6 or 7, something like that. But
Could you back up for a second for me to ask a question? This Wooten proposal, does the cost for Froling and Robertson included in that?
Yes.
It is, okay, thank you.
Buildings you're talking about, is that the old charcoal services
Yes.
building? Okay, gotcha.
It was when we had that building before, Bob, it was, if I'm not mistaken, we gave some tax incentives. And if the building is sold, the building wasn't never made into what it was supposed to be made into. So if the building is sold, is there any way that the county could recoup their taxes that they waived when we gave this group this building for an incubator?
Oh, good question. You're probably talking about the Committee 100.
Yes.
And
whoever,
yeah.
I mean,
the owner,
we gave them, I think it was a write-off, am I correct? That we gave some tax incentives to the...
They call it an incubator.
Incubator, yes.
So it's possible maybe during the time that they've owned it that they haven't paid taxes on it. Is that what you're saying as a nonprofit?
Yes.
Yeah, as a entity owned by the Committee of 100, I don't believe there's taxes being paid on the property right now.
If it's sold, is there any way that we could recoup that money? I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know.
We can always ask that question.
Bobby Parker should be able to tell you how many years you can go back, if at all, on a nonprofit like that. But now, the Committee of 100 is selling the building, right?
Yes.
The whole site?
Yes.
Okay. How much are they getting for that?
I want to say in the 200 range, something like that.
Okay. Is there a mortgage on it? Are they self-financing or what?
They're self-financing.
Well, you know, that 5%, excuse me, what happens on that sometimes is when you get the papers back, you find out you can't take part of the money that we're going to give you to self-match. And what I would like to have in this, if this thing is done and commissioners agree to it, is for the Committee of 100 to agree, if that is in the provision, that he cannot self-match, that they're going to match. They're going to provide that match.
Yeah, the way I think we have it worked out right now, the owner or the gentleman that's buying and renovating those buildings understands he needs to ante up on the 5%. The next part of the paperwork, if this application is approved and we do get access to that grant, the county is just a mediator for it. Okay, so the bills for the renovations would come to the county, and then we ask for reimbursement 50%. Well, that first bill is where that 5% gets taken care of. Okay, that would come, and he gets 5% less than than the 50% that he would get on the reimbursement.
Okay. What about clawbacks? Is there opportunity? We need.
Here, what you're going to have, Hood.
We don't want to get into
Commissioner Richardson, is here's the way it works. The next set of, really, we're in the application stage. Hopefully we'll get funded. These things sometimes don't always go through. You get funded. Then there's another set of paperwork where basically the county enters into an agreement with the owner of the property for a loan. Okay, and that loan stays out there for 3 years for him to create those for him to create those jobs, and then 3 years or 2 years. But anyway, he has that period of time to create those jobs. If he creates those jobs, that loan is forgiven. The county just forgives it, and we don't owe anything back to the rural center. Otherwise, we get a chance to recoup that through a performance agreement that we have with the owner.
Says 18
That's the
months in
clawback.
here.
Sorry?
There's 18 months in here in relation to job.
18 months after the initial 6 months, so I think it's a 2-year period.
2 year?
Yeah.
We paid several $100,000 in clawbacks on this city thing. So my question is, I guess, to clarify that, is this county going to be involved in having to pay clawbacks on this?
No,
what we're giving them is a tax deferment. Is that right?
No. In this case, this is completely different than incentives or things that we typically would run through the city or the county. In this case, the county is just a facilitator for a loan that gets forgiven when the jobs are created.
Okay,
This is a program by the North Carolina Rural Center. Building reuse monies is what
Okay,
the
we do
program
this,
comes
and he
from.
doesn't create the jobs. Who pays?
He does.
So we're going to need to make sure that kind of indemnity is in the contract.
Let me read what's in here. It's okay. As in the event the company defaults on the job commitment, the local government is required to call in the loan for repayment to the rural center and will be required to take any means necessary, including litigation, to recoup the funds from the property owners. Local governments receiving funds under this grant program will be expected to comply at a minimum with state regulations regarding procurement, including General Statute 1434. Local government recipients will be subject to state audit and reporting requirements.
Sounds to me like a clawback to me if he doesn't create the job.
You've got a performance agreement. It's just like you going into a bank and getting a loan. You're going to sign a promissory note. You're going to
There's a
give.
good chance that if this guy can't create the jobs, that he's not going to have the money to pay us back. You know, I think the indemnity on this should come from the Committee of 100.
What it says about clawback is if job creation goals are not met, a pro rata share of loan funds must be repaid by the property owner through a clawback provision and a loan performance agreement and promissory note. Sample loan documents can be found at NWW Rural Center.
Yeah, but that's like all of these clawbacks. You know, we have been having to stand for that money if you couldn't get it out of the developer.
That's what it's saying.
And we, you know, the Committee of 100, that property was donated to the Committee of 100. They got it free of charge.
No, they paid some money.
What did they pay?
$75,000.
$5,000.
Okay, they're getting $120,000 out of the deal. I mean, you know, when we came through this thing out on River Road, you know, we decided then that we weren't going to be doing any more indemnification. So we got to find a way for somebody else to pay other than the taxpayers.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, when that next set, if we get lucky enough and we get this thing funded, the next set of paperwork gives you another shot at what kind of indemnification you're going to require. Are you going to require the real estate? Are you going to require a letter of credit? What are you going to require that will help satisfy that loan should he not make those that job commitment? That's really the next. So really, you get another shot at.
Well, you may get another shot at it, but I mean, unless he's willing to give us a deed of trust, that if he doesn't pay us, we're going to get the property. We can do that.
Yes, you can. That's exactly what I'm saying.
There's going to be something in there to protect the taxpayers because we paid, you know, $300,000 or $400,000 plus putting like $350,000 in that River Road project, and it hasn't done anything for the citizens of Beaufort County. Truth of the matter be known, it hasn't done anything.
In fact, Hood, we were just looking tonight at taxes owed to us. I mean, the Amolite people, the Bonnie products, they didn't pay their taxes on personal property.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good deal generally over in the last number of years for us to get involved in economic development. It hasn't worked very well.
Well, I'll make a motion that they can fill the application out and bring it back to us.
Yeah, we need to go forward.
Move forward.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion?
I got one thing to ask. North Carolina Rural Center, you know that they're under a cloud of suspicion right now on a number of issues. You think this is going to hurt this going forward? Because they're getting ripped apart by publications up in Raleigh.
Yes, I've seen those articles, and I don't necessarily agree with those articles, but I will tell you this, that when you look at the House version of the budget and the Senate version of the budget, the Senate takes the funding out completely for the North Carolina Rural Center. They still want those programs. It just may be housed in the North Carolina Department of Commerce. The House version of the budget actually includes funding for the North Carolina Rural Center. So
It'll be interesting how it comes down.
Oh, it will be, believe me. Yeah. And I think the conferees are being put together this week. Yeah. So we'll see how that shakes out.
One of them got the Economic Development and Department of Transportation housed together, regional offices.
Yeah. We can talk about that.
Wants it in the Department of Commerce, too.
I'm sorry?
McRory wants it in the Department of Commerce, too.
Right.
I don't know.
North Carolina Rural Center?
Huh?
Are you talking about the North Carolina Rural Center?
He wants it to be, he doesn't want it to be. the North
His
Carolina
budget
Center.
showed the very same
He
thing,
agrees
right?
with the Senate version.
Yeah. Now, and Randall, you've gotten your communications from the North Carolina County Commissioners Association. Looking at all the economic development issues that are, and the difference between the Senate and the House, and financially how which version of the tax package impacts Beaufort County more. The House is going to be a better situation if they leave it the same as it is today. So. Be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
It's going to shake down.
Yeah, I'd like for Commissioner Booth to restate his motion on that.
The motion that was that we would move forward with the application with for this company, and with Mr. Hughes, if it's approved, bring it back before this commission that we can hash out our differences of what we want to do.
Yeah, and then knowing that I agree, knowing that you need the indemnification in there, Bill Mayo and I will sit down with the manager and we'll get something on paper that hopefully is satisfactory to you.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand.
I'll vote for it.
All opposed? 6-1. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayo.
Yes, that's next item. The 230. This is a piece of property that's come before you before the county on East 4th Street. And you have two proposals. One of them came before us. For some reason, I didn't get in the minutes that it was offer to purchase it for $1,000. That was rejected, and of course, we've got since then and received another offer to purchase, sum of $10,000. Quite a bit of difference. Got a good faith deposit by the proposed purchaser, and the amount of money that the county had in, taking it in through Mr. Bardell, the foreclosure attorney, was $10,541. That was city, county, taxes, reimbursed. So it's a vacant lot.
I move we accept the offer.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed?
Very good.
Okay. Commissioner Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speak on the limited voting study that we've been doing. At our meeting on last Thursday on June the 20th, we took three proposals that were offered up and discussed them. And one proposal was mentioned by Betty Murphy and her husband Bob, demonstrating a 7-district area in Beaufort County. And they did a lot of work on that, and it really was detailed, so I really appreciate what Betty did on the committee. I had a proposal of 4 districts and 3 at-large candidates. And then we also viewed the Arrington study, which allows 2 votes on when 4 members are running, and only 1 vote when 3 candidates are running. Well, after a lot of discussion, we finally come to terms with the Arrington study, which we were in pretty much of agreement. The vote was 6-2 that we go with the Arrington study, which is allowing the people of Beaufort County to vote for 2 people in one election cycle when 4 candidates are running, 1 vote when the 3 cycle is running. And I would just like to, this committee is running down, so we'll probably meet one more time, but I would like to show my appreciation to Sylvester Reddick and Ed Hamrick that was on the committee for the amount of input they had on both sides of the fence. I really do appreciate that. It made everything worthwhile, but they were steadfast in their beliefs, and I really appreciate the fact that they were on there, and they were a great help. I want to thank Commissioner Dethridge and Commissioner Booth for their input and their guidance in this committee. So that will be that for that. Okay. The last meeting, which was on June the, I can't remember what the last meeting was. Anyway, we talked about a setback for solar farms in Beaufort County. And I asked Commissioner Langley to set up a committee to study this situation, and he was generous enough to do that, and asked Commissioner Richardson and Commissioner Booth to sit on it with me. And on June the 17th, we met, and never have I sat on a commission that worked as hard with such direction to get something, one common goal as we did on this. And we asked Brian Buck from the Mideast Commission, the planner for Mideast Commission, to write the ordinance. And at this time, I'd like Manager Randall to read that ordinance.
This is a draft ordinance, solar farm ordinance for Beaufort County. Whereas Beaufort County has the authority by the provisions of the North Carolina General Statutes 153A-121 to make ordinances to define, regulate, prohibit, or abate acts, permissions, or conditions detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens and the peace and dignity of Beaufort County. And whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners is informed and has determined that the amount of electrical power generated by a solar farm could be dangerous, injurious, or deadly to a person who came into contact with the same. And whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners has determined that there will likely be a number of additional solar farms developed in Beaufort County, North Carolina. And whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners has determined that the appearance of solar farms without setbacks and screening of the same can be adverse impacts on the value of properties adjacent thereto, as well as other properties located nearby. And whereas much of Beaufort County's economy is driven by the tourism industry and the second home industry due to natural beauty of the area. And whereas it is important for Beaufort County to reasonably preserve the natural beauty of the area in order to protect the economy of Beaufort County, North Carolina. And whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners has determined that this ordinance would aid in the preservation of the natural beauty of Beaufort County, protection of property values, promotion of tourism, preservation of character and integrity of the community, and promotion of the comfort and happiness of area residents. And whereas the North Carolina Supreme Court has specifically recognized the authority of North Carolina counties to adopt reasonable regulations based on aesthetic consideration, and that the same can constitute a valid basis for the exercise of the police power. And whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners has determined that requiring appropriate setbacks for solar farms and requiring the installation and maintenance of reasonable evergreen vegetative buffers around the perimeter of a solar farm will aid in lessening the adverse impacts on the value of properties adjacent to, as well as other properties located nearby. And whereas the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners has determined that requiring appropriate setbacks for solar farms and requiring the installation and maintenance of reasonable evergreen vegetative buffers around the perimeter of a solar farm, as set forth in this ordinance, sets an appropriate and reasonable balance between the public interest in regulation against the individual property owner's interest in the use of his property free from regulation. Now therefore be it ordained by the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners for Beaufort County that the following ordinance shall be in place and effective in Beaufort County in accordance with its terms. And it goes on into a lengthy, specific ordinance for your further consideration, but that's just the beginning resolution part of it.
What's the pleasure? Pleasure of the board. What is the pleasure of the board?
Right now, I'd like to make a motion that we have a public hearing for the first Monday in August to take care of this resolution ordinance.
Okay.
Sure.
Second. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay.
Also, on the limited voting committee, I'd like to make a motion that we have a public hearing on August the 5th, at the same time we do the setback.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion?
I would vote for the public hearing, Commissioner Brand, because I foretold that this is not an indication that I'm going to support.
I understand
what you want to do. I don't believe in quieting the public, but I don't want to give any false hope.
None taken.
Any?
Have we done any studies so far on how this would fall out with the votes?
As far as, yes, Greg Doherty did some work on it, and he said that it would not change the outcome of the election one iota. And I think Stan had said the same thing in talking with him.
But did he make this? Has he made a report available to you on this?
He did not.
He just gave his opinion.
He gave an opinion, but he had done some research on it.
Well, okay. One little problem I got with Doherty and his thinking in there is, yes, let's look at election day, and you're in the polls, and you're a black voter. And there's 4 commissioners still running, and 4 from each party, and you want to vote for your black commissioner, and you've got 2 votes. What do you do with that other vote?
In the Arrington study, it addressed that situation. The minorities would slingshot their vote for only one candidate and not use their other vote.
So really, we're giving them 2 votes, 1 to throw away.
If they want to, absolutely.
Well, if he was interested in a black candidate as opposed to political parties,
they may be running a at-large candidate that may be in a minority, so they would use 2 votes.
In other words, but you mean they run at large now, though?
I can say everybody's at large.
Everybody's at large.
Well, yeah, right. But if there was 4 candidates running, and there was 2 minority candidates, that he could vote for either one of them, or only vote for one. It wouldn't matter.
Okay, but if the black candidates only have 1 vote, and 4 white candidates have got 2 votes, if white voters were to vote for 2 white candidates,
black guys out
twice as many, they would overpower the black guy.
Kiss him goodbye.
Wouldn't
I
they?
would like to know, in the studies that I read, and it's been a while since I've read these, but it said that what it basically said in this study was that you have to maintain what you have now, which is that of the 7 members on the board, you have to be able to elect 2 of those members as African Americans. Will this
have a reasonably good chance?
Reasonably good chance.
Yes.
Yeah. And will this method that you're describing now, or do we need to get some expert guidance in here? Will this method give us a reasonable basis to assume that will happen? If it doesn't, then we shouldn't be using it.
The Arrington study indicated that it would not change the way the vote came out. Am I right on that, Stan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty much.
And he said he's in his expert opinion that it would not change.
Well, it's not going to change the way the vote's going to come out while you're
could
doing
happen.
Mr. Chairman.
But it's excuse me. In the Arrington study, he cited that historically that black candidates voted for black voters voted for black candidates. White voters voted for white. That's not necessarily so now. I think that you have a lot of white people that would vote for a black candidate and vice versa. So I think the Arrington study is right on, and I believe what I've read and what I've researched that I don't believe it would change the way the outcome of the election is.
Yeah. Well, what it would do is if everybody voted, you're voting for two candidates, instead of a person being elected with approximately 12% of the vote, it would require about 25% of the vote to get elected, because you'd be doubling up on your votes.
You'd only get to double up one time, so your percentages of one, you would get two votes, but you still got to factor in the number of seats running. So it's really not a 50% equation. It's more of a 25% equation. If you factor in the seats, yeah, that would be, yeah, the math would be 25% instead of 50.
Well, I'm fine with the public hearing, but I'm like Commissioner Booth. I won't ever vote to do it, but the public hearing that's fine. But I don't trust that. I really don't.
We probably need two public hearings.
Oh, we do.
Really?
To adopt it, you do. You have to have one and just hear what they say, and then, because the other thing is, I understand they said that Mr. Doherty has looked at the numbers. I would rather see the numbers come from somebody else.
Me too.
Well, I think Arrington is going to have to update, if he's still around, his numbers in order to make this work. So
things have changed.
Yeah, because when Arrington study was done, the population of minorities in this county was a lot higher than they are now.
I think it was like 26%.
28.
28 is 23 or 24.
24 now.
So Arrington studies is already tainted.
It's a variation of about 13-14%.
Already tainted.
But now we're gonna have to deal with the lawsuit that's out there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the first step of the process.
Well, okay, and that brings you around to cost on this stuff. By the time you finish with lawyers and everything, how much money do you think we're talking about?
Well, that's what I was going to ask our county manager to get our legal staff to check in to see what our legal ramifications are. So if you can do that,
cost you a roof.
That's what I'm
doing. I'm going to make the same statement I made earlier.
Good roof.
It'll cost you a good roof.
It won't be that cheap when we voted on tonight.
Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to sum up the committee work, and was good. We brought up some stuff that was done years ago, and it's remarkable how the most acceptable plan by the committee was something that was done so long ago, and we didn't enact it because we were so busy with so many other things at that time. But I think the committee worked in good conscience to do what they thought was best. Having said all of that, since we've met and came up with this plan, a lot's happened. Last week, I believe it was Tuesday, Article 4 of the Voting Rights Act was struck down, which pretty much took Article 5 down with it. So wherever we go now, we're going to be blazing new ground. We're going to be dealing with real obstacles, but those obstacles could be made weaker by not having the foundation of what was. It's all changed. This is a brave new world in dealing with the voting of Beaufort County. So whatever we do now does not necessarily mean what we're going to finish up with.
That's correct.
So we just need to just play it by ear, find out what it's going to be, understanding that cost may not be as much as we think they're going to be, because in defense of the voters of Beaufort County, whichever position you're taking on this, there are guidelines established now, at least in the legal realm of the three divisions of government and the federal government, that have changed. And until Congress does something about it, you've got a Voting Rights Act that's pretty well been gutted. So, okay.
Sharon, I was going to mention that I think one potential cost you would need to consider would be the potential for new litigation against what your solution, the committee's solution may be, or recommendation may be. You may cause a new lawsuit to come forward that would cost us significantly to defend what the committee has recommended. So I think that's one thing you'd have to keep in mind as well when you look at the potential costs.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Go ahead with
Let's
it.
go do it.
Well, I'm willing to vote to look, have the public hearing and look.
Got a motion and a second, don't we?
I didn't get your second.
I did.
Right. Okay. All in favor of going on with the public hearing? Go on with it.
I still want to make it clear, I'm not committing to nothing but the public hearing.
Can I ask, did you look at any situation where you had the same number of commissioners now elected the way they are, and then additional commissioners elected at large?
Yes, we did.
We're all elected at
Yes, we
large
did.
right now.
No, he's an additional plus
Yes,
beyond
we
the
did.
7.
That plan did not make the
I know
top three.
we're elected at large, but I was saying, say you can vote for one of the 7 now, but have 2 additional commissioners, and you can vote for both of them.
Yeah. I mean,
Did you look
can I
at?
answer
Did you
this?
look
Yes,
at
sir.
that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Take out the whole idea that we need 2 more commissioners. Just completely take that out, that bad idea out. When we looked at this,
I will not concede that,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
when we looked at the plan and we started doing the math, we were finding that if you're going to have, were you talking about districts or just taking what we had?
I wasn't talking about districts. I said
we
keep
were
the
looking at
same
districts.
Same thing you got now with the 7 you got now. 1 vote, but add 2 commissioners, and you can vote. Everybody in the county can vote for each of those 2. You got a Republican, two more Republicans, 2 more Democrats running. Everybody in the county can vote for both of them.
Okay.
They're at-large seats.
No, we did not look at that.
No, we didn't.
We did not. I thought you were talking about districts. I'm sorry. Please
No,
forgive
I'm
me.
not talking about districts.
What? Then I'll go back to the argument. Do we need 2 more commissioners?
No.
Well,
It all depends
you
on
know,
how they act.
other boards have 9 and work fine with them.
Well,
you know.
and I'll make the argument that the Mecklenburg County and Wake County, 2 largest counties in the state, have 5 commissioners.
No, not anymore, big boy.
Which one?
Wait.
Wake's got
They just changed theirs.
How many?
The state legislature changed and added 2 to it. 2 at large, just like I'm talking about right
They
now.
did?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
well,
better go
Mecklenburg
read
has
your
5
News and Observer.
What?
You better go read your News and Observer. It's been talking
I
about
don't
it
make a
for
daily
about
habit
6
of it,
months.
that's for sure.
And that's your Republican state legislature just did that
Okay.
for you. Then they weren't looking at minority. Your Republican legislature wasn't looking at minority, majority. They were looking at Republican, Democrat.
There is one thing, though.
when they changed.
With the plan that you're talking about, your minority representation would not necessarily drop, but there's a
wouldn't drop.
very good chance it would drop to 2 out of 9.
Yeah, but see, what you're looking at is the minority voice is still heard. In the old way of electing people, there was not a minority on the board. That's what the minorities are worried about. They didn't get a seat at the table at all.
You're getting ready to take that.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, no, I don't think that's the intent at all.
now, I mean, in the old way you were electing folks, the minorities did not get a seat at the table at all. Now they get a seat at the table, but what the white voters are fussing about basically is that we only get to vote 1 vote. That's all we get.
Yeah.
Actually, if you think about it,
And this would give them 2 more votes. This would give them 3.
actually,
If
if
you
you
did
think
2 at
about it,
large.
And you get 2 more county commissioners.
you get 2 votes. All we wanted to do was add a 3rd vote in there. That's all we wanted to do.
Yeah.
That was the bottom line.
Yeah, and you don't get any new commissioners, which
Yeah,
is
that's
the plan.
But anyway,
Let's move on.
I'd like to talk about our jail a little bit. I've heard proposals on building jail in 4 or 5 different places, and saw 4 or 5 different proposals on how to build a jail, where to build it, whether there should be a sheriff's office in it, whether there should be a gymnasium in it, and I think that that we should take a look and study taking the jail that we have right now and refurbishing it, bringing it up to modern-day standards, and if need be, add a new structure in back of the courthouse of ever how many beds that we need to bring it up to code and meet requirements. I'm not an engineer. I don't know cost on this stuff, but I believe by doing this that we could save the taxpayers of Beaufort County between $12 and $15 million. And in today's economic climate, folks, that is a lot of money. And I just want to put that proposal out, let everybody know how I feel about what we're getting ready to do. And that being said, there's three words that I really care for. We the people. And we the people does not mean we the commissioners. It doesn't mean we the sheriff. It does not mean that we the judges. It's we the people. We're duly elected to fight for the taxpayers of Beaufort County and guard their money safely. And I think it's irresponsible to say that we're going to spend $28 to $30 million of money that the citizens of Beaufort County don't have and don't want to pay. So therefore, Randy, could you take a close-up of that for me right there?
What does that say?
That is the names and telephone numbers of our county commissioners. I think that when we get in a situation that we're getting ready to spend this kind of money, that the people of Beaufort County ought to have their input in it. And my phone number is on there, and my phone is available at any time. And I think there's not a commissioner on this board right here that don't want to move forward and do something. But we got to figure out how to do it. We got to figure out what kind of jail we're going to build, where we're going to build it, and how much money we're going to spend. Personally, I can't never justify spending $30 million on a new jail. We got to find a way to make sure that when we spend your money, that we do it in a responsible way without raising taxes.
Is that a motion or just?
That's just my opinion, and I've said my piece. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I got one thing to say. Could you include my email on that sheet? 'Cause I really don't want to get a lot of phone calls, and I'll reply to the emails even faster.
No,
Stan at BeaufortCountyNow.com. Okay, just give me that email. I'll read them every 30 minutes. All right. Okay.
But I would like to make a motion to have a study made on refurbishing the jail as it is and bringing it up to today's standards and find out the cost on that before we ever decide where we're going to put a jail.
Okay, you have a motion. Is there a second?
Well, I'll second it just for the moment for discussion.
Or just a study?
Yeah.
Just study. And if we're in the discussion phase, I would like to say, we're going to get some of that tonight. So,
Have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Well, I think Commissioner Brin has put himself in a trap without realizing it, because you can't bring today's jail fully up to what is considered to be the standards of a modern jail. Now just about 75 of the jails in the state don't come up to the standards of a modern jail. So, I can give you the answer to that study now. And the answer is no, you can't do that. But the question becomes around, is the jail that we have adequate to do the job? It has never been condemned by any organization other than a few big shots around here that think they know everything. Okay? So all we've got is like Doherty's personal opinion on that voting. We've got the same thing on the jail. So, I would respectfully request that you withdraw that, because you put yourself into a trap.
All right. how would I put myself into a trap just to see?
Well, the answer is no, that you can't do it, so then you're going to have to build a new jail. You know, if the answer is no to the question that you posed, then you're going in the direction of building a new jail.
Mr. Chairman.
And I don't think we need to build a new jail.
Right.
Well, I don't either.
At this point, well, then you think about what you just asked for, because you're not going to like the answer.
All right, Commissioner Clem.
Yeah, in relation to the new jail standards, extensive annual alterations or repairs to a jail with any 12-month period, alteration or repairs costing in excess of 50% of their physical value of the building are made to an existing jail. The entire jail shall conform to the construction standards for new jails established in Section 1200. Then you go on to the section that really hurts, and that's the standards for day room. A minimum floor space of 105 square feet or 35 square feet per inmate, whichever is greater, is required for a day room. So if you have 100 prisoners, you got to have 3,500 square feet of day room. And we essentially don't have that in the present jail. It just doesn't exist or can't
That's
exist.
why you don't want to ask.
That's why you don't want to even ask the question.
You don't want to ask that question.
Commissioner Booth.
When we started talking about building a jail, I asked the same
You're really right
question
about
that Commissioner Breen asked, and I asked the guys that done the study. And what Commissioner Breen is asking, yes, it can be done, but I rest assured you it's going to cost you more. It's just like remodeling a house. You can build a house at today's market probably for $125 a square foot. You start remodeling a house, it probably costs you triple that, because you never know what you're going to run into. When you start to dibbing and dabbing, you might go over there beating on that jail, you might knock Hood office down over there. And you won't never be able to pay him back.
That's actually funny.
I'm just teasing you. I asked that question, and it is, and I was told by two firms that it was be more to upfit the building than it would to build from the ground. And when you start doing those things, and like Commissioner Hood said, when you start to ask them for today's standards, I hope that we don't have to build a jail with today's standards, because I mean, some people tell you you got to have a library and all that, especially if I think it's federal prisons.
You don't have to have a library.
You don't have to have a library.
Let me just say one thing in defense of what you're saying to a degree. Think about this, Gary. Think about the problems we're having right now housing prisoners off-site, what it's costing us, $3,700, $3,700 a day. Think about that. Think about we'd have to put them off in another location and pay that, which would mean we would effectively have to get rid of all our jailers. We'd have to let them go. There's no way we could keep them on while that's being done. The only reason we're keeping them now is because we're moving quickly to get this thing resolved as fast as possible. So then we're going to have to let all the jailers go. That's going to be lost jobs. Then you're going to have to rehire people, and you're going to have to go to the point of trying to get people that are reasonably good at what they do to come as the next jailers. So you've got a situation where you're working where you need to have something already working. It's almost you're going to lose so much money trying to make what is now functional when actually it functions well enough as per the standards of yesterday, which is all we got to have right now. Of course, we all want a better jail if that can be achieved as cheaply as possible, and you want to do that too with this plan. I'm just going to say right now, Hood's got a point, and even Al's got a point here, that if once you ask the question, you might not like the answer you get.
I guess it comes right down to it. I don't want to build a new jail.
Well, I don't either, but let me...
And you can vote against that.
Let me put this another way. If we've got a set of building code standards now, and they're about that wide. When those standards came into effect, everybody in the state of North Carolina didn't have to go out and bring their house up to those standards. So when that jail was done, the last time it was remodeled, it met the code. It still meets the code. So you don't have to do anything to that jail to continue to use it. Now, if you want to expand it into the rest of the floor down there, You could probably do something like that, but the new expansion, like Al just read here, if you do a certain percent of improvements, then all of a sudden you start flipping over into something else. What I've been pushing more towards is better management of the jail as a jail, better management by the district attorney instead of rotting out prisoners until they're willing to plead to anything. We need to stop doing that and get these people out of jail, not keep them down there for this cruel and unusual punishment. So better management and better efficiency with the jail and the justice system that we have is the answer to not having to build a jail. The jail that's down there now can stay just like it is forever and still be used as a jail. It's not been condemned by anybody.
Commissioner Cline.
I just want to make the statement that it is possible to build a new jail that house 200 people for less than $12 million.
Okay, and I just give Commissioner Death at one point of clarification with the correctional officers we have in the jail right now. All of them are still working. They're working at the facilities where our inmates are being housed at, so there won't be any layoffs with that. You just have them working in other facilities because they have to take care of our inmates wherever they are, so they're still on the job.
Sounds like a duplication of service.
Well, we need to get into that, but this is not the time.
Right. All right. So,
I'm going to rescind that motion.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we have a study to what it would cost to refurbish the jail.
To refurbish the jail.
That's
Okay,
correct.
but not to.
Not to expand it, but to refurbish the jail and keep it as is.
I made second. I'll vote for that.
Okay.
And in that motion, I think we can still save the taxpayers of Beaufort County a load of money.
Okay.
Now, I thought, Mr. Chairman, if I may say something, I thought part of the reason for building the new jail was that we, it needed to be larger. Is that correct or not?
That is correct.
Well, we started off with that, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know how much larger, but it needed to be larger than it is in that facility.
We started out with that, but the district attorney made a mistake in writing something to respond to something I was complaining about, that there was something like only 57 prisoners in the jail. We're permitted for how many prisoners? 78?
85.
85 prisoners. And what has happened since the magnifying glass has come on the jail is the population has gone down because people have been getting them out of there, and the population in the jail can still continue to go down. Now, the velocity of prisoners through the jail may increase, but the population can continue to go down, and we haven't had to house as many prisoners out of the county as we have been having to house. So things are getting better simply because the bright light of day is beginning to shine on law enforcement, on the jail, and on the people who are putting prisoners in the jail, the judges and the district attorneys and all these sorts of things. And that's part of our method to saving money here. We can save about $20 million easily here for the taxpayers if we can run this jail efficiently and get the DA to do his job, sheriff to do his job, and the judges to do their job. I mean, this is a pretty comfortable group of people when you get right down to it. So that's been my focus on it. And I think the commissioners have done a good job discussing and holding these things up to the bright light of day. And that's how we made the progress that we've made. It's necessary now, unfortunately, for people to make the jail look as bad as they can to try to get a new jail. And that's a lot of what's going on at the moment.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of Commissioner Brand's motion, raise your right hand.
Study.
That's the study.
That's the study.
Study.
Go for that.
Okay, opposed? All right, 5-2, it carries.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does the board want me to look into obtaining a consultant to assist us with such a study?
And that's probably going to be the only way you can do it.
That's the only way we can.
Mr. Chairman, let me weigh into that. I think you've already got the consultant. If he's talking about refurbishing the jail, the simple truth of the matter is, right here's the person that's refurbishing the jail. When she gets through getting the electrical system fixed in there, and the other system fixed in there, and the showers fixed in there, What other refurbishing is there to be done? The answer is there's not any.
That's my question. I'm tasked with
Come
providing
to this.
study.
Come to this.
No, we're not tasking you with providing the study,
Right.
because you're already doing the task within the study now without being tasked with cranking out a report. What I'm saying is the answer to Commissioner Brenn's problem is right here in front of you, because we've got to do that anyway to put prisoners back in the jail. And when that is done, the jail has been refurbished.
Well, that's the definition of refurbished needs to be, I mean, that needs to be determined, and I assume by the board. I mean, are you talking electrical systems, mechanical systems?
I think, excuse me, I think that Mr. Richardson misunderstood the way I feel about refurbishing. I mean, to go in there and clean it out and make it presentable, bring it as up to date as possible.
Fresh coat of paint.
Well, more than that. You know, if the bars need to be replaced, let's replace the bars. Refurbish that jail is what I'm talking about.
Well, now, we went through the jail within a matter of the last month, and I can sit here and name you the things that need to be done to refurbish the jail. The bars in the jail are fine. We're going to repaint the jail. That's already been budgeted. We are probably talk about tonight, and I may be out to lunch on this, talked about fixing the showers that are in there that are giving problems. Well, after you do those things, if the mechanical equipment, the electrical switch gear, we're going to have to fix that anyway. So that's on there. What I'm saying is this program is already rolling ahead full steam at the moment. Unless you're talking about additional items to fixing the showers, it's being done.
But there's not anything being done as far as officer safety is concerned. I mean, because the hallways and walkways are too narrow in that facility. In order to fix it where those officers are safe and secure in doing their job, those bars cannot remain where they are.
That's what I'm talking about.
They just cannot remain the way they are.
They're making it safe for the jailers when they...
Whoa, wait a minute. Safe is a subjective term. That's not an objective term. The jail meets the standards right now that are required by the state of North Carolina. So why would you want to go in and start changing them? Because when you start making those hallways wider, then you start impinging on the size of the cell. And when you impinge on the size of the cell, you're violating the general statutes on the amount of space that a prisoner is required. So, Mr. Brenn, if we do what you're talking about doing, you're talking about gutting the jail, and then you need to go build a new jail. That's what I keep saying. There's a trap in what you're asking for.
Yeah.
The building code and the jail code, you need to understand specifically how they work when you start trying to deal with them, because if you start talking about bringing things up to standard and moving this and changing that, then you're violating something else. And the code says when you violate the other item, you've got to bring it up to standard. So you can literally, and I get into this just a little bit, I'm not an expert, but we get into this where you tell people you're better off not to do anything because you're going to have to tear your house down and rebuild it if you do these things. So you don't want to ask these questions, because at the end of the day, today, the jail meets the jail standards of the state of North Carolina. It has not been condemned by anyone. So don't get caught up in making it safe for jailers, because you cannot build a jail that is going to be perfectly safe for jailers. One has never been built. These wide areas that they're talking about, yes, they may contribute to prisoner safety, but you can get some arguments that they contribute to jailer safety. You can get some arguments that they don't contribute to jailer safety too. So you meet the standard. That's the critical item here. You meet the standard. And as long as you meet the standard, then making the repairs that we're talking about doing satisfies all the refurbishing you can do. Because if you go down there and start moving anything, then you're going to be getting into bringing it up to standard, and you just gut it and go on and build a new jail.
Commissioner Clem.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in relation to physical value of the jail, if you're going to do 50% or more, physical value says, for the purpose of this rule, the physical value of the jail building shall be determined by the local building inspection department.
That'll be the city.
That's who determines.
Yeah.
Right now we're fine. You don't want to go down there and start moving things, changing things. You don't. It's adequate now. It's not been condemned. That's important. Don't get caught up in what the sheriff's going out here telling people. The jail has never been condemned by anybody but the sheriff.
Okay, we've already voted, right?
Yes.
But we've asked for clarification.
Yeah,
Okay.
You got it.
For the definition of
You
refurbishment.
go right ahead. No, you're not, you haven't been charged with doing
Okay.
this. You were not charged in his motion.
Okay.
I simply pointed out that when you finished doing
we
the
were
things
in
you
the
were
process.
doing, that you had met the requirements
Okay.
that are required by the state of
So
North
once we
Carolina.
get to a point that we're finished with Christina's work,
Motion for this.
Refurbishing the jail.
yeah, are we going to
She's
look for
refurbished.
another study other than Christina's, or will Christina suffice?
I
She'll
think
suffice.
what she comes up with will suffice.
Okay, that's fine. Great.
I think
your answer
I
would
think
be
you're
much
putting
better.
an awful burden on her shoulders here.
Well, she's paid well to have that burden.
No.
Those were
No,
normal-
you're
those
wrong.
were
You got-
normal
You got
duties that I
Gary
just
telling her one
enumerated.
thing and Hood telling her a different thing.
No, I didn't tell
she
her.
knows what she's
And
doing.
she's sitting over there scratching
She's
her
not-
head.
She's going to repair the electrical. She's going to fix. She's already been charged.
Well, that's
The
what
money's
you
been
say, Hood,
appropriated.
but that's not what Gary said.
I said refurbish the jail.
Yeah.
And that's not the scope of work that you're doing. So basically, let's just fix this right now. All you need to do is finish doing what you're doing. And when you finish doing what you're doing, then you just submit that information to us, and you have fulfilled your obligation.
And if we need anything else, we have to do another vote.
Make sure she
So
didn't
no additional
get
No.
task on bars, painting?
No, painting's already been approved.
Painting has already been. Okay.
Stick with the program.
I'm good.
Just do
Hear
your
her.
job.
You'll hear her study in about 30 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I got a black screen. Let me go back.
Under the bus.